Your daughter just last year got into MIT and she's going to school, and she also got into many other top schools. What do you think your influence on her decision to apply to those schools was?
She always hoped to go to a top school. The area where we live, very similar to the area where you live. You are, every day you are interfacing with people who went to top schools.
Did you want her to go? Or given the environment that may have promoted her interest in schools, what did you do given that time?
Yes, I did encourage her. Gamble, given how difficult it is to get into a school like this. I'm 14 years old. It's very difficult to know they will be like 4 years later. So I always try to qualify it, say to her on many occasions that the work that she is doing is worthy of top school, because it was.
But how was your experience at MIT as an input to guiding your own daughters? Like, you know, is this something you would encourage her to pursue?
I didn't specifically encourage her to go to MIT. She did meet some of my friends from MIT. And I think kids in general like doing things sometimes that their parents did. So from that point of view, she always had MIT in the back of her mind.
I would never specifically encourage someone to go to MIT. I would want them to make it their own choice.
Right.
Because it's such a torture once you're there. Where did she study? Like, is it in the neighborhood? Is it a private school? Where did she go to school?
She went to our regular public school.
Public school, but obviously it's a very good neighborhood to go to school.
Yes, it is.
And what was Katie's preparation for applying to a top tier school? Like, in addition to the things that are offered academically at her school, what were the things that she did, you know, above and beyond like that core criterion? So
just like me, she met a teacher who thought that Katie stood out, and that was a Latin teacher.
Interesting.
But from the very beginning, from literally the first week or second week of school, the teacher singled out Katie in some way and thought that Katie had something that other kids didn't, and just encouraged Katie to do Latin outside of school.
That's a big ask.
But that was her favorite class.
She liked the stories? Like, what did she like?
She loves the mathematical or quantitative structure of that language. So somehow it appeals to her.
I kind of was going to guess that.
Okay. Grammar and
the declensions, the
yeah,
conjugations,
exactly,
the neuter, masculine, feminine, very structured.
So she did very well. National competition, won the state competition several times.
They have like a certamen or something? What do they do nationally?
They have like a national Latin exam.
Oh wow.
She also really likes biology. There it was the opposite of Latin, in the sense that the teachers did not encourage her or anyone else. When she decided that she wanted to participate in the National Biology Olympiad, she had to convince the school to register for the Olympiad, because the school has to register.
I mean, the school didn't have a participation?
No, the school had never had any participation.
So
she had to pay for the registration herself out of her own pocket.
So
the school registered, it was like $100 or something.
What, you know, on biology, what excited about the subject matter? How did she?
She took AP biologist. That was when COVID shut down the school. Connect this with COVID, she became very interested in the whole concept of how biology is related to health.
Wow, that's interesting. Just out of curiosity, did she ever have any grade school, middle school, high school? Did she ever get any bad grades? Anything that like she
No,
just
she
didn't
did not.
understand?
She was very lucky. She was.
And what do you think was her preparation that enabled her to perform well in an academic setting?
So if you give her like a math problem or biology problem or a chemistry problem, she was happy when she was able to solve it. She was actually, it would make her happy to get a solution.
Oh, that's interesting. So she got an intrinsic satisfaction from the act of solving.
Correct. Yeah, very much so. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Did you see anything that thought she needed to just differentiate more to you encourage her to try something to just get another edge, or you thought she'll figure it out?
In my opinion, need to do is start doing things that you like and keep doing them for enough time where practice will make you really good.
What other things was she like maybe perfecting her capability, or
Sure. Well,
even non-academic?
She played golf for many years.
Did you play golf?
I don't play golf at all.
What about your wife? Does she play golf?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't play.
So she wanted to, or how did you like figure out like, okay, you want to try golf? Like what?
She displayed good hand-eye coordination, and so we said, why don't you try a couple of things and see how which one you like. But golf was something that she was pretty happy with. She started doing golf when she was 7.
Wow. Your wife also has a strong academic background. How did she support, coach, influence your daughter in this whole process?
Any expectation of being academically advanced is always that the best thing is to let the kid do, not to push the kids.
That's interesting. How old was she when she moved to the U.S.?
She was a baby.
Born in China, but she grew up
Yeah,
here.
she was brought up here.
Do you think any of that is kind of like a backlash to the extreme tiger momism in China?
Absolutely. I think how kids can be pushed very hard. She always don't have to do hard things just because they're hard. She was very much hoping that Katie would not go to MIT.
MIT undergrad, you took on the financial burden. You graduated early, and then you went to pursue academics in a way that you could also get paid. Does finances have any role in any of these decision making, or is that something?
Fortunately, they don't have a role.
Okay. Does your daughter have any stake in her finances for this, or is she covered?
She is completely covered. She is very lucky to be in that position.
Yeah.
Scholarship from our local police association. Scholarship opportunities, they have nothing to do with MIT.
In the home stretch. Should parents want their kids to go to Ivy League or MIT? So, how would you answer that?
I think it is completely natural for every parent to want their kid to go to an Ivy League school. So
and for better or worse, that's an extraordinarily competitive source of college applicants.
Correct. One region can be much less competitive than another. If you are applying to Harvard from Idaho, your achievements and accomplishments and scores need to be a lot lower than if you're applying from Brooklyn, Massachusetts.
Or they can be a lot lower.
On the other hand, they recognize it, so they don't, for example, people who try to optimize it and move to Idaho for the last 2 years of high school, that they don't overlook that
They take that into consideration.
Yeah, so if you have a national level result, that is definitely a big plus. Or if you have like a top state level result, so those are big pluses. Make sure as a parent that you can really put down in writing what it is that makes your kid so awesome.
There's another point that you made in the same statement, which is the authenticity, right? So like you spoke a little bit about Katie's innate satisfaction in problem solving.
Yeah.
That's an important factor because she wanted to do it anyway. Right?
Correct.
She wanted to get that
Yeah.
that answer, that solution, and then maybe over time more challenging and more complex and more interesting. I get the sense that a lot of people may not find the thing that their kid really wants to do.
Sure.
The kid is like, okay, I'll do it, but this is not my thing.
I believe that everyone, there is something that they would love. It doesn't have to be academic, doesn't have to be athletic.
Helping the child find how to focus their energy.
That's a very difficult thing because there are so many distractions. When I was in the Soviet Union, it was really easy to focus your energy because the alternatives were horrific. Okay?
I want to hear a little bit more. What was, if you didn't read, what was it that you would be doing?
If you didn't get into college, you had to go do your military service.
Right.
And military service was horrendous. So that alone, I think, back then pushed a lot of kids in the Soviet Union to go and become really good at physics and biology and chemistry. Sometimes lack of choices helps you concentrate tremendously. I know I'm going to sound like I'm 100 years old now. If you don't have access to a computer and you have to sit down and be bored, sooner or later you'll start doing things that you really like doing. Right? I think you see my point. Hardest job for a parent is find something that your child is passionate.
I got one last question. The husband stays in Korea,
Right.
expatriates the kids and the mother to Canada, US, Australia, Europe, or something like that, to get exposure to another education system, develop English language in particular, perhaps have a better chance at university in the future in that other country. What do you think about this type of situation?
First of all, I'm very familiar with the situation because in the area where we live, there are a lot of families from China, kids who come to the US to play golf. Golf in particular has become a way to get into a top college. If you have a unique story to tell, you are coming from Korea, I think that story will go better than if you have a story about how you moved to the United States. Yeah, she went, so I'm sorry, I completely forgot. EPGY, Education Program for Gifted Youth. And Katie participated in that program from elementary school. Teachers in her elementary school, when she was in 3rd grade, directed her to that program. So they said, look, you can just, you should study that instead of.
우리 환이 내년에 3학년이잖아. KT도 3학년일 때 선생님이 EPGY 했잖아. 우리 환이 내년에 선생님이 연락해서 EPGY 하라고 하는 거 아닐까?
No way.
Every parent thinks that their child is a great, creative, smart kid. She finished elementary school math when she was in middle of 3rd grade. After 7th grade, she actually did not take any math at all until her sophomore year in high school. Because we didn't want her to take college math when she was 11 years old. That would have been a bad thing.
She did some curriculum in the online Stanford program and then the rest in the local high school?
Correct, yeah.
Did your wife also study math?
So my wife is weird.
If you're saying someone's weird.
She got into Stanford for a PhD in chemistry, and she went and she was able to switch into PhD in statistics. And I've never seen anyone be able to go from being able to do a PhD to being accepted PhD in chemistry to PhD in math or statistics.
Yeah. No, the reason I ask is just why Katie had this
math,
such a strong
so for
propensity for math.
If your kids are good in academics, Stanford online high school classes are incredibly good. It is, I believe, it is ranked in the top 10th best high schools in the U.S.
우리 알아도 해야 되는 거 아니야?
Every parent thinks that their child is a great, creative, smart kid.